Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Dr. Monica Hawkins, and we're talking about raising black boys to be successful young men. And the name of your book, Dr. Hawkins, is Raising Boys into Extraordinary Young Men, A Mother's Perspective.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to thank you for having me on the show, first of all. And just a little bit about myself. I have an undergrad degree from Howard University, a Master of Public Health from GW, and a PhD from George Mason University. And I wrote this book because so many people were stopping me and saying, "What are you doing special with your son?" And I thought, oh, no big deal. I'm just doing what every other mother is doing. But as my son got older, people from all cultural backgrounds were saying, "What are you doing?" So I thought about a year and a half ago, let me write this book so that I could inspire other parents to raise their sons to be extraordinary young men as well.
Why do you think it starts from birth, or does it start from birth, where you start kind of training and molding before they can talk and walk? And
I believe it's actually before your son is even born. I believe that I started working with my son when he was in womb, and when I say that I was reading to him, I was walking around the house and I was telling and sharing different things with him. So I do believe it starts once they're in womb, and then once they're out of the womb, you can continue with everything. You can continue to read with them. You can continue to work with them on a daily basis in terms of their homework as they get older. You can continue to expose them to museums. You can take them to science centers. You can just do so many different things with them that are actually free. Doesn't cost a lot of money. It just does take a lot of time.
what is the importance, because I know the importance of reading. I've always been an avid reader. At a very young age, books always took me to other places that I knew I couldn't visit physically at that time. What is the importance of making sure they start reading and keep reading?
Well, part of it is so that they're beginning to form different words when they begin to learn to speak, that they've heard a lot of the vocabulary words and things like that. So you begin forming those words, and it's so important as they get older so that they can then become articulate young people. So that's why I believe it starts, when they're young. And reading can take you any place around the world. Say you've never been to Spain or Italy or other places, you can do that through reading.
How do you give them the best start when it comes to going to school?
I believe,
because school season is here, so
it is, and I do believe that working with the son's teachers is essential. I don't believe in waiting until report card time to develop a relationship with the teachers. I believe it starts at the beginning of the year with back to school night. We're going to have back to school nights in the next couple of weeks, and forming a relationship with that teacher through email, progress report time. Anytime that you see that your sons are not doing well in class, that you develop that relationship with the teacher, you email the teacher or ask the teacher, are there different things that I could do at home that would help with my son in terms of in your classroom? There could be internet sites, things like that. There could be additional readings that your students can do.
But you need to let the teacher know that you are concerned and that you are involved, not just at grade time.
Absolutely. And it needs to start early at the beginning of the year. And then if your sons, they change teachers every year, then each year you need to develop a good relationship with that teacher and be able to email them at any time and ask those additional questions. And then if you notice after a while, quarter after quarter, that maybe your sons are not, their grades are not improving, and you're doing everything additional at home in addition to what your teachers are doing, then possibly consider maybe a tutor or something like that.
Well, we know as kids get older, parents may start out being involved with the school and being involved with the teacher, but as a student gets older, they hit those middle school and high school years, you kind of just drop them off. And you still have to be as persistent when they get older as you do when they're 5 and 6 years old.
Absolutely. You have to continue all the way, I believe, through high school. You can't back away in the middle school years or the high school years. Those are just as important as the early years, if not more important, because now we have social media, we have a lot of distractions, we have a lot of the peer pressure at the middle school and the high school age, a little bit more than we do at the elementary school age.
Do you believe that we should limit your child's access to social media? Not access, but use of.
I do believe that. Social media is quite a distraction. I do believe on a daily basis, parents need to really think about limiting the cell phone use. One of the things that you can do is when the child gets home from school, the child could have maybe a 30-minute break or an hour break to eat their snack, watch a little bit of TV, just to debrief from school. Once that 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour is over, then we need to get into our schoolwork and completing our homework. Once the child has finished the homework, then possibly they could get on a little bit of social media. But I do believe even after they've completed their homework that you need to set a time limit. Whether it's 30 minutes or an hour of social media or the cell phone, that's something that your household should discuss amongst themselves and figure out what's reasonable. So I don't believe you should totally take it away because it's normal. That's what everyone's doing, but I do believe you need to limit it.
And what about monitoring exactly what they're looking at?
I do believe in monitoring. It's difficult to monitor everything because the child can block you and different things from Twitter and Snapchat and the other social media. But as best parents can, I do believe you need to monitor, again, especially at the middle school and the high school age, because they're getting into a little bit more electronically. So you can do the best that you very can. You don't have to overdo it and you don't have to underdo it, but just try to figure out a nice balance.
What about making sure that they're playing the appropriate video games, and should there be a time limit on that as well?
Absolutely, there should definitely be a time limit on the video games. I know they're very fun and I enjoy them, I play them a little bit too, but they also can be very addictive. So I do believe, again, as a household, try to sit down with everybody and say what's reasonable once we've completed our homework, maybe Monday through Thursday, that maybe we just do 30 minutes of video games after we have completed. Or maybe we don't do any video games Monday through Thursday, play any video games, and we just leave it for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Try to just work with the child and gauge, okay, if I let them get on video games for 30 minutes, are their grades, decreasing or going down as a result of that, or they're pretty much staying the same? If they are doing pretty good, then your 30 minutes is okay. So you kind of just have to give a little bit and see if that's working. If that's not working, pull that back, the time limit. What else can we do? Let's just limit to the weekends, things like that.
Also, one of the crucial subjects that we talk about a lot when it comes to children in schools is bullying.
Absolutely.
The First Lady, for example, has an initiative with bullying because it's such a huge problem.
It is.
How do they deal with that?
Bullying is really a difficult issue to deal with. One of the things for the boys, most of the boys at some time in their life will experience the bullying. And the only thing I can say is in some cases there are going to be some of the young men that will need to defend themselves. Kind of working with your child, do they need to go to the teacher and speak up? If they're too afraid to tell their parent, hopefully they're able to go to their teacher and say, teacher X, this is what continues to happen with me. I hope that most kids are able to go to their parents, and then the parents can get involved and see how severe it is and try to work with the different school systems.
We live in such a different day and age. I have seen stories where children have committed suicide because someone is bullying them on the internet, or because they didn't get enough likes on something they posted. You can't live or die by what others
Absolutely.
say about you or believe about
Absolutely.
you.
I think that's where a lot of the self-confidence needs to come into play. We need to continue to work with our young men as well as our young ladies at home to build them up for the self-confidence where they're not worried about fitting in with society. Dressing the same as everybody else, having their hair the same as everybody else. So continuing to work with our young people at home to build that self-confidence, to let them know you don't need to look and do everything like everybody else to feel like somebody. We must build them up so they are happy with who they are, and they're not always trying to fit into society. That's easier said than done, but that is the best that I could say in terms of that.
When it comes to influences too, they've got so many influences. We just talked about social influences from school, influences from the internet. How as parents do you become that major influence? Sometimes we feel like we lose our kids when they get to a certain age, when they get to those teenage years. You feel like maybe their friends have more of a pull than I do when it comes to helping them shape their decisions. How do you take that dominant, you can't spank them anymore.
Right.
How do you make sure you are the major influence?
I think that's with the open communication, just continuing to communicate with your children as much as you possibly can, so that they can look to you as well as their friends. Sometimes there could be an issue where they're talking to their friends about an issue, but I do hope that you're building open communication with your children where they feel comfortable enough to also share with you. So you have to continue to have open communication just day after day after day. It is difficult when they become teenagers. We were teenagers at one time. We don't want to be bothered by our parents. But our parents, for the most part, they always know more than we do. So we need to continue to have that open communication with them just day after day after day, and continue to hope that they will come and share with us as well as their friends.
Let's talk about the fact that African American boys face some unique challenges.
Absolutely.
You read the news, know the headlines, that African American boys in many instances are treated differently than their counterparts. How do you talk to them about things like what to do when you're stopped by police?
Just continuing talking to them, I would say around, to be honest, 7, 8, 9. Some people would feel like that's too young, but to me, 7, 8, 9, you begin introducing the issue to them. It's very sad what's going on in our society, but it's very real. So we need to, around 7, 8, 9, start talking to our young men about what they need to do in terms of not making a quick move in things when the police are approaching them as they get older, and continuing to let them know that when they're in a dangerous situation, that they need to stop, think, don't do anything really harsh or quick. But just be able to let the officer know, listen, I just want to be able to reach over and get my identification and show it to you. I just put your hands on the wheel. I just want to be able to reach over here and show you my ID and things. So.
People are being raised now in different types of families. There's single parent homes, just all kinds of things make up a family. It's not like it used to be with the Brady Bunch many years ago.
Right.
Families come in a variety of packages.
Absolutely.
How can you, if you've got a blended family, if you've got a family that's gay, where you've got two parents of the same gender or whatever. How do you still continue to raise successful children?
I think it's still the open, I'm still going to go back to the open communication and working with the young men when they're young, just continuing to, we live in a society, like you said, so many different families, explaining what's going on, because there's so many different real situations out here. So just continuing to have that open communication with your children. This is what's going on nowadays in our society. It's on the television, all of that. So being able to sit down as a family with open communication and saying, this is the real world and this is what's going on in the world. And we need to treat everybody as equal, regardless of our background, regardless of our race or anything else. We're still human beings first.
When should you begin talking to your children about sexuality?
I would say around 5 or 6, because that's the age that a lot of these kids are realizing, oh, I'm a girl, I'm a boy. So I would actually say around 5 or 6.
And of course, you've got to make it age appropriate
Absolutely.
Discussions.
As the child gets older, then you can introduce more serious topics. But when a child is young, you're just going to introduce the basics. We always want we want our kids to be aware of what's going on, because they could be put in a dangerous situation. We wouldn't want them to be put into a situation where they were molested or something like that. So we need to talk with them early and keeping them safe.
And you know, over the years, as we can see what's happening in society, the situation that's currently going on with the Catholic Church, in the news every day we see some teacher's aide or something who molested a child at school. Tell somebody.
Absolutely.
So we've got, as you said, communication is the key. If there's something going on that doesn't feel right, that doesn't seem right,
speak up.
Speak up.
I know it's easier said than done, but I do hope that the boys have, you know, the confidence and are able to have that open communication with their parents. And if not, sometimes even the doctors are getting involved and they want to have open communication, but some adult that the children trust, that they could go to and say, this is what's happening to me.
I have always been a big advocate of making sure that kids get involved in things like sports, karate. My kids have done wrestling, karate, football, you name it. They have been involved in a little bit of everything. What do you think is the importance of making sure your kid gets involved in things?
I believe the biggest thing is teamwork. Teamwork, being able to share with other girls and boys. It's a confidence booster. You are able to deal with wins and losses. How do I act if I win? Do I show good sportsmanship or do I show bad sportsmanship?
Because I've seen some bad sportsmanship.
That's right, and I have as well. And then how do you, on the other side, how do you act when you've lost? Do you walk around pouting? Are you angry for days? Those are very important issues that we need to be able to talk with our kids about. This is the way that you are, you act when you lose, because you're not always going to win in life. To me, sports teaches you the bigger picture of how to deal with life, not just the short term, oh, I lost this game, but in life I've lost. How do I deal with this situation? How do I act in this situation? So I believe that's important for sports.
And every game is a new beginning. You might have lost the last game, but here you have an opportunity to begin again, to win again.
Absolutely. And what did you learn from what did you learn when you lost? Is there something that you could do differently? Is there something that somebody else on the court, basketball court, football field, whatever, swim, what could they do differently? Could you have done something differently if you're on maybe a track relay team? So everything. And then in football, to me, sometimes it's, what do I do when I'm pushed down in life? Do I get back up, or do I just sit there in life and keep, or do I get up and move on with life. So that's the bigger issue to me with sports.
What about positive self-talk for kids? Making sure that you tell yourself, I am good, I am special, I am worthy.
Absolutely. I believe in positive affirmations. I believe in teaching children that they should write down different positive thoughts that they think about themselves and then posting them on a vision board in their home so that they could then look at those index cards or that vision board every single day and really absorb positive thoughts about themselves so that when they do think negative thoughts, because we all have them, but when we think of something negative, that you could flip that negative thought and say, no, I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to keep myself self-confident. I'm not going to go into a tank and not be able to get out of that because I've flipped my mind into a positive thought.
Now, you've written this book about boys.
Absolutely.
And you're working on a book about girls. What do you believe is the difference between raising boys and raising girls? Of course, you know, there's that whole gender thing.
Absolutely.
But what are some of the lessons that you feel are the same? What are some of the lessons that you feel are different?
I believe what's really different, the biggest thing for the girls, we really need to build this self-confidence. Not that we don't in our boys. With our girls, our self-confidence needs to be, you can be anything you want to be. You can be a mother, you can be a wife, you can go to school, you can be a multifaceted woman and do everything extremely well. But for the young girl, I want them to continue to not let society play a role and dictate who they are in terms of them always wanting to fit in with every other girl out there. You could be a little different, maybe your hairstyle, maybe your polish on your nails. It's okay, but continue to believe that it's okay and I don't have to be fit into society and I need to be happy with who I am. For the boys, to me, there's an assertiveness. There's a self-confidence, but there's also an assertiveness that our young men need. I'm disappointed when I see so many of our young men not being groomed to be leaders. They're being groomed to be followers. So we need to let them know that it's okay that you're an extraordinary thinker. And that you think outside the box. We need more extraordinary thinkers, whether it's a girl or a boy. So I believe those are the two biggest differences. Our girls, be happy with who you are. Let's build up our self-confidence. And with our boys, let's be a little bit more assertive and let's be a thinker. Let's be an extraordinary and creative thinker.
A lot of times when, for example, a boy is an extraordinary thinker, he might feel like he needs to play that down so that he's not the odd man out. Or that, as we know growing up, and it's still true today, sometimes people get teased for being smart or for being a leader.
And that's where at home, to me, it comes into play. We have to continue to talk to our boys and let them know that what they're doing at school is wrong. You continue to be the extraordinary thinker that you are. You just have to keep talking to them and almost like drilling it into their head. It's okay that you're an extraordinary thinker. Don't let the others know. A lot of times boys are doing that out of jealousy. They wish they were the extraordinary thinker like this other young man. So to downplay what they're doing and to continue to build that confidence that it's okay that you're extraordinary. We need more extraordinary thinkers like you. We need less of the boys that are teasing, that are bullying, that are being cruel to others. So that's what I would continue to do.
How do you communicate with your child if your child is the one doing the bullying?
Now that's a difficult situation. I haven't been in that situation because my son is an extraordinary thinker. In that sense, I hope that the school systems and other parents will step in so that that parent knows, your child is doing X, Y, and Z to my child. And I would hope that that parent that would then go home and talk to their child about the importance of not bullying others and not being cruel to others.
Because that's usually a huge red flag. If your child is doing the bullying, there's something going on at home.
Absolutely.
Something that they can't express at home that they're taking out when they come to school.
Absolutely. And they're taking that out on somebody else because of the anger that they have. And we need to teach these young men how to channel that anger and not towards somebody else. You need to be able to see what's going on inside. Why are you not happy with what's your life or what's going on in your life?
And in wrapping up our discussion, how do we gear them towards education? To once these school years are over, my kids, there's no way you going to college. I don't know what you, but I mean, they have known from a very early age, after this high school thing is over, you're going on.
My son is the same way. All growing up, it was when he was in elementary school, what are you going to do in middle school? Where are you going? When you're in middle school, where are you going to high school? Now that he's in high school, where are you going to college?
Yes.
So he's 9th grade, and we already talked to him about where do you think you want to go to school? What are your different thoughts? So the biggest thing is looking ahead to that next stage in life and how important that is. And let's continue to do that with our young men. Let's look ahead in life. Let's not wait until the moment and say, oh, you're going to college next week? Okay, where do you think you're gonna go? That process needs to be 2 to 4 years in advance, and how important it is. And once they get to college, where are you going to get a job? How are you going to make that happen so that you are going to move on with your life and flourish?
That's so key. Planning ahead. Planning for the future. Don't wait till the last minute. So
Absolutely.
We don't have any money for school. So you wait till the last minute. There's no scholarship money left.
Absolutely.
You haven't even applied for anything to anywhere.
And that's something all growing up we need to teach our young men and our young ladies. Look ahead. Be prepared. Don't wait until the last minute and procrastinate. And that's something I've taught my son since he was tiny. Let's look ahead. Okay, let's keep you organized so that you can look ahead to the next stage. Those are the most successful people.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. The name of the book is Raising Boys into Extraordinary Young Men, A Mother's Perspective. And you're looking ahead at that next book. You said that the next book is going to be dealing with the girls.
Yes, it is. Raising Girls into Extraordinary Young Women, A Mother's Perspective, and it will be out in October of this year.
Very good. Very good. And of course, we've got to have you on then.
Thank you.
No doubt about it.
Thank you again for having me.
We've been talking to Dr. Monica Hawkins, and the name of the book, Raising Boys into Extraordinary Young Men, A Mother's Perspective. And I'm looking forward to seeing that female perspective of how things should be, the female version of
Thank
this.
you so much for having me.
You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.